Andrew Tate doesn't realize it, but he is exactly like a radical feminist. He and a radical feminist are both caught up in their resentment and hostility to a point where they are constantly asserting how happy they are, how independent they are, how men are trash or women are dick vessels, and men should do this, women should do that. There's a lot of shoulds and a lot of tyrant and grandiose and power-hungry types of attitudes within both of them. And both of them are caught in blaming the other and as a justification for why they are the way they are. And it makes sense because actually they are in a circle. It's not just a cause and effect. It's an actual constant circle of hostility and resentment and things that aren't going to help the battle of the sexes at all. Why? Because they're both caught up in this superior-inferior type of dichotomy instead of looking at what we can appreciate, adore, admire, and honor about each other as when that's the conversation, you're in a place of feeling good. Just think about it. What feels good? A lot of things feel good because they appeal to your lower level. They appeal to your hostility, your resentment, your pain. So a lot of men are feeling pain in the dating culture. They're feeling a lot of empowerment from Andrew Tate because they've actually been heartbroken, and then this guy comes along and he does offer them this sense of be independent and control your woman. This is how to control her, and don't go for one that isn't easy to control. Make sure you get one that's 23 because then you can prime her. Make sure when you're 30 you've got that young, more easily manipulated, pliable girl. And that's what he says. So there's a lot to be said about Andrew Tate deplatforming. Like, for one, I think to myself, well, maybe I shouldn't be so caught up and mired in the battle of the sexes fight. Maybe that fight is a distraction from really the fact that he had a lot of truth about COVID, about replacing humans in police force with robots, and part of this new QR culture, social credit culture. Like that type of content, absolutely, I want that out there, and I believe that was the real reason he got deplatformed. But I also think that because everyone's reactive with the battle of the sexes content, that there's a lot there. There's a lot to be said about it. And what I think is that when men see Andrew Tate, they see a part of them that is absolutely not allowed to be expressed. And so there's a delight in seeing it expressed. There's a relief. There's that same kind of feeling when someone makes a taboo joke and you laugh. There's a release because they are not allowed to have that kind of masculinity. Is it toxic masculinity? I would say it is. But the point is not the point is that we need to be analyzing what he's doing for the culture, why he's resonating, and also I like to analyze what is toxic about him because I find a lot there. But anyway, the thing is I think that men, when they see that, that's a part of them that is so not allowed to be expressed. It's so they have to hide that so much that they just love to see it because it's forbidden that they can express some of those statements. And I think that some of his statements are, okay, I guess I can rationalize and justify and blah, blah, blah. But for me, what's really revealing about Andrew Tate isn't even about that he has the kind of resentment and hostility toward women that he pretends is like, oh, I love women. It's like, yeah, you love them because they're useful. What's really key with him that I find is, what is always revealing about people is when they make a lot of money and when they're touting that they've made a lot of money, how do they make that money? Yes, he was a world champion kickboxer first, but then he was thinking about how to make his next million, he was obsessed with that. And what he did, how did he do it? He got all his girlfriends together and asked them to start conning men with sob stories, so that those men would then get give them money. So they did cam girl stuff, but he emphasizes himself. It wasn't necessarily sexual. They often told stories about a sick family member or paying for college. They got men to pay them. He got off on the fact that he conned men, and that those men were dupes to him, and he liked to have them be beneath him. And then he got off on the women, not fucking these men, but fucking him. So again, to me, it's revealing that he looks down on people. I'm not talking about just women. I'm talking about he looks down on men and women, and he thinks, and he even said, I'm the top of the motherfucking food chain. And men, the dorks, he has a quote that's like, the dorks pay the girls because of their weakness for sex, and then those girls aren't even fucking them, they're fucking me, so I get the money because the girls love me from the dorks that are duped and weak. Like, he says it, it's a more succinct quote, but it's very revealing. See, he views people, he has, I'm king, I'm God, I'm top G, and men and women are beneath me. Men, and sometimes, yeah, there's that whole thing of men want to be you. But he got off on actually deceiving men by using women. So let's get it straight. When he's saying he empowers men, he just wants some minions of men that buy into his idealized image enough that he creates an idealized image that I'm rich and I get women. But the truth is he obviously needs to create that so that you then think he's an authority and then pay him money for Hustlers University and the War Room. And maybe these things are offering a lot of value to men, but to me, it's very revealing how he views, like, if you look down on people and if you look down on men and view them with contempt, like they're so much dumber, uglier, lower status, inferior to you, then you're not really somebody that has that level of respect toward your fellow. Like, you're not, like, you can say you're helping them, but when you talk to them in that way, there's a huge cluster B narcissist cult leader type of feeling that has, because there's already the grandiosity, there's already very limited empathy, there's already what he says, he has that kind of God complex of like, when I cheat, it's because I'm great and I deserve it. But when a woman cheats, it's 100 times worse because women equate sex with love, so it's actually worse. And it's like, well, what this is really doing though is it's not even about whether you're measuring it that way. There's a lot of truth to how women view sex and men view sex that he's saying. But what it's really getting to is a lack of regard for how a woman that he loves would feel if he cheated. Notice that's not in the equation. It's just all about him. He's God. Everyone else seems to be an appliance. Everybody else seems to be supply and appliance. Men, women. Now, everyone talks about how he treats women. Let's talk about how he treats men. He conned men using women and got off on it. So I think he continues to get off on that. So let's not idealize him. Let's not put him on this category where he's our savior. But let's also not overly villainize and make him the scapegoat. Because to me, he is fueled by the same exact toxic emotions as the resentful radical feminist. They're two sides of the same coin. They're both fueled by resentment and hostility, and all they do in our culture is propagate resentment and keep finding new ways of how we can manipulate them. How can we belittle the other sex into submission? That's what both of them seem to be preoccupied with. Whereas I think that other people are more preoccupied with how can we have curiosity and empathy and try to understand each other in order to continue to have relationships where we can honor, admire, adore, and respect each other. That's what high vibe, better quality is. When we're mired in all the ways we can manipulate to control people, if you're always looking for how you can control people, then you must feel out of control. You're not a self-possessed, you're not the person that you claim to be, which is the person that is is feeling good and wanting to help others because they've gone through some healing and growth and want to help. You're going through a way of almost, I want to get everyone else to have the same level, the same rationale as me, because that reinforces my entire rationale and justification, and maybe that'll obliterate some of the guilt I feel underneath that I'm trying to not feel constantly. I mean, let's consider that. Because when you make money off of deceiving people, it doesn't matter what you can call yourself a top G, you can call yourself all this stuff. You are a parasite. You are not you're using lower level base instincts of people and looking down at them for having them. And then what are you creating? You're not creating anything. Like right now, when he's actually creating content about it, that's actually commendable because he's using his voice, he's trying to create something. But I'm referring to the revealing aspect of that cam girl business that got him his millions, and reflecting on what's up with that, and what is up with men. Just kind of like just like women can get caught up in a man savior that kind of has that magical talk. Men also, we all get caught up in these, when we're in a state of confusion in a culture, which we are. This post-COVID time is so confusing, and we're looking for somebody that has a certainty. They're so shiny, and then they come along and they start these kind of cult leaders we got to watch out for, because the sign of those kinds of people is parasitic lifestyle, using other people and then claiming that there's so much, that they're just so high, when really they're making money off of base cons, grifting, and using others. And then there's also that level of lack of empathy, grandiosity, always saying he's the best in this, and acting like he's the most searched person and all that. And maybe he is, you don't. But anyway, there's a lot to consider here. So that's my take. When people say he's a reaction to radical feminism, and when I believe that he is the person most similar to those kind of resentful feminists, and making demands, making shoulds, reducing the relationship of the sexes to inferiority and superiority. When we want to be at a level of we're different and we honor those differences, but we honor our equality. And I don't mean making things equal in every way, like in the way that the feminists have, in a way that's almost denying female sexuality, like things with oxytocin and things like that, and denying evolutionary biology. I mean in terms of having some regard for each other again, and some curiosity, instead of constantly pitting us against each other. And even this Andrew Tate stuff, it's pitting people against each other. Like the guys I like who like him, I'm afraid they don't like me if I dare have an opinion that's different about him. And I feel almost scared of them, because I think, well, if you like him, maybe you're not somebody that I can trust, because maybe there's and see how that's really awful for, we don't want this kind of constant animosity, because it's already growing and it's already really keeping us stuck and depressed. So let's try to find ways to have that adoration and admiration and honor and respect again.